we have the right to inhabit our land, to use our land.
Our culture is about sustaining that relationship with the plants, the animals, in a forest.
I did start drawing a lot in the residential school, really not knowing my culture and traditions.
And I'm very proud to be here today. My name is Halos, and this is my squia.
Hello and welcome to Voices of Shishalh. This is the show that comes to you as a pioneer in Canadian broadcasting, hosted for the first time ever by an executive chief, Calvin Cragen, and it is a political affairs, current affairs program that gets right to the heart of the nation's business. Now, Calvin, I know that you come as a hereditary chief as well as an executive chief. Could you explain what the difference is and why you're running for a second term?
Well, traditionally, before the coming of any other government, Indian Affairs or the Indian Act, our people ruled themselves by, each family had a hereditary chief, and actually they called him the spokesman. So each family had a spokesman. And as the older spokesman got older, he passed down the talking stick to the younger one, to the next generation, and so on and so forth. So in my case, I was like fifth or sixth generation that I became the legislative last hereditary chief and documented in Ottawa. So my father was the last hereditary chief and the first elected chief. And that's where my heritage comes from. And I was born to that about 70 winters ago. So this winter I'll be 70 years old. And once again, I am the elected chief. The elected chief is dictated by the Indian Act. The Indian Act came to rule in the early 50s when they put us under the Indian Act and said we had to elect our chiefs. But since then we've been under the electoral system. But now with the new generations, the new generations are thinking about going back to our traditions. And that's why I think more and more hereditary chiefs are going to arise.
Do you think that in your lifetime you will see all of your traditional territories, ones that your people lived on, hunted on, fished on, do you think that they will again belong to the band, and will people live on them and live as they used to in some way and be able to culturally enjoy those territories?
Yeah, I think the day is coming very close because of the Chilcotin case. I think the decision is going to return that land back to us, return the traditional way of life, a life that has been long forgotten. And I think that all of our people will start going back to the traditional villages where they once came from.
What do you think non-Native, non-First Nations Canadians can learn from your traditions?
Well, our people were self-sustaining, self-governing, and they lived in such a way that honored the land, respected the land, and because of that, there was sustainability. And you have to understand that once there were thousands and thousands of us people, thousands of our people used to run over this land, lived on this land, and sustain themselves by taking care of this land. That's going to reoccur, that's going to happen again. And our people are going to go back into the land and be self-sustaining.
If there was one element within the persona of your band members that you would like to increase, what would it be? The pride, self-respect? What would you like to see grow and be enhanced by your tenure as chief this time out?
Well, traditionally there was always self-respect, and that respect went not only to our people but the chiefs, and that's how our chiefs governed, because of that true, strong respect that they had for their leaders, and our leaders really governed the way our people lived on the land, took care of the land. And I think that's what the young people are going to bring back, is that self-respect that they once lost, the self-respect once that returns. Our people are going to bring back their pride. They're going to be proud people once again.
I find it interesting that when you gather with the federal government, a Stephen Harper or a representative or the Premier, who is your first guest coming up in the latter part of the show, and you're all on an equal level. You're the chief, they have their domain, you have yours, and yet of the three, you're the only one who is a spirit dancer. What do you think that adds to your ability to see this and have these visions?
Well, being a spirit dancer, it brings me closer to Mother Earth. I'm paying respects to Mother Earth today by not wearing my shoes. And being close to Mother Earth gives me that strength, the honor that I need, the strength that is transmitted through Mother Earth to all of our people, because our people were one with the earth, one with the land that they lived on, and respected that. And that's what I bring forward. Being a spirit dancer brings me closer to what my heritage is, being a hereditary chief, and that's what our people did. The way they honored themselves, the way they honored the earth, this is the way they did that. And I bring that back to the way of life today.
So in the business side of it, you've got the Silcoteen, which has been called a game changer. And for those who don't know what that means, could you explain in brief why you are now preparing for a new world for this band because of that Supreme Court decision?
Well, the Supreme Court decision made by the 8 judges confirmed that the people had the right to their land. They had jurisdiction to their land. They had a right to make a living off that land. They had a right to be there, to protect that land and sustain it and to sustain their people. This is the message that Shishalh's been trying to transmit for the last 30 or 40 years, that we can self-govern, we can govern over our land, we can sustain ourselves through the resources of our land. All we needed was access to those resources.
We're going to go to the Premier in a minute. I'd like to close this segment, if I may, by asking, a priest would bring a Bible to a meeting, a lawyer would bring a book of laws, a legislator would bring the legislation of the land, but you bring that black drum over there, and it gives you strength, and you've got those feathers. Could you explain why those are such obvious tools of wisdom for you?
Well, becoming a spirit dancer gave me the ability to see visions, to have visions. And this drum is one of my visions. And what this drum represents is life returning. When this frog reappeared after it went away and died and had a second coming, and its life was given back to it, this is the way I see my Shishalh people. The life, their land, is being returned to them. So that is my vision.
When we return from the break, we're going to welcome the BC Premier, who is the first guest on this inaugural show, and the Chief is going to ask some questions. And I think you're going to be very interested in how she responds to Chief Calvin Cragen on Voices of Shishalh after the break.
What does development mean for the poorest of the world? It means to be able to live in human dignity, to feed your family and keep them in good health, to live in an environment of peace. Development and peace. That's who we are. That's what we do. That's what we need to do together now. Call 1-800-494-1401.
It takes years to develop osteoporosis, and just one simple movement to discover that you've got it. You could be at risk. Find out more at osteoporosis.ca.
Ovarian cancer isn't polite. It's the most fatal gynecologic cancer there is. So for a minute, let's throw manners aside. Let's get loud about ovarian cancer with our mothers, our sisters, and our doctors. Let's listen harder to subtle symptoms like persistent abdominal pain, unusual bloating, urgent urination, and nausea. Because together we can beat this thing. Go to ovariancanada.org for more information and turn up the volume today. Listen up and get loud!
1, 2, kicked out of school. 3, 4, snort some more. 5, 6, need my fix. 7, 8. Feels too late.
Drugs. Do you know where they'll take you? To learn the effects of drugs and how you too can say no, visit drugsnotforme.ca.
I think the people of the Shishalh community should be very, very, very proud of what you've accomplished. Longest running self-governed First Nations community in British Columbia. And look at how well you've done out of that. Not because anybody else did it for you, did it because you did it for yourselves, for your own community. And the community is thriving. And the other thing that we see is that because the First Nations community is increasingly wealthy and thriving, it benefits everybody in all of the communities that live near. So, you know, I think the Shishalh and Chief Cragen have set a fantastic example for the entire country of how self-government can work, and not just work for First Nations, that can work for the entire community, Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal alike. And that is a vision we should all share, every one of us.
Welcome back to Voices of Shishalh, which is the show about the Shishalh Nation, and it is hosted by Chief Calvin Cragen. And Chief, you recently had a meeting, probably hastily called, by Premier Christy Clark, in which she gathered you and the most powerful chiefs in BC in downtown Vancouver, and she made some announcements. How do you think those announcements were received?
Well, obviously she chose her words very carefully, and she was a little apprehensive, but with her charisma, I think in her background, the chiefs recognized that their words were hopeful in the way that each band, each tribe was looking at it, and each tribe was hoping that she would make fulfilling promises to them. And I think that's the key thing, is that there was hope.
So that's how you and your colleagues received her information. How do you think she received your responses?
Well, I asked her that, and she seemed very positive in terms of recognizing who Shishalh was. And I was very surprised that she knew about our history, knew about who Shishalh was. And because of those words, it gave us kind of hope that she would choose us as the band that was going to come across the line first.
The Supreme Court has recognized title for the first time in Canada, and we are guided by that. And so, you know, now that we recognize title, and no premier in the history of the country has done that before, we have a place to begin talking about how we're going to implement that, what's going to come next. One of the things I heard was there a lot of diversity in the room about what should come next. Every First Nation is unique, so of course there's many opinions about that. We've got our work cut out for us. But, you know, I really see the Supreme Court decision as a win for every single person in BC.
That was a very interesting and considered response to your first question, Chief. But you always wonder what's going on in the back of their minds. What is the real truth of what they're saying? And what advice do they take? And you asked her about that.
Yeah, I asked her if she needed to have encouragement that they knew that they were in a dilemma of how to treat all the tribes in BC. And we stated that there is a way about that. If they accept that Shishalh is a self-governing band, that is a precedent that they could use, and that Shishalh could be the first to come across the line, and the Premier could actually go into history as bringing Shishalh forward.
Well, I think of it this way. We all, every single individual, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, has a chance to shape the future. Every one of us. And one of the things we all know about the future is it's coming, whether we shape it or not. And however it comes, if we haven't had a hand in it, it's going to look like somebody else's vision of it. I say, let's shape it ourselves. Let's get our hands around it and have the courage to really work hard, shape it, and change it. I don't know what that's going to end up looking like, because I don't want to impose my vision on every one of the 203 First Nations that's in the room today. We have to do it together. And in many communities, it will be a unique vision. But again, this is the beginning of that. And it's going to take courage. It's going to be hard. We are going to argue about things and disagree. But I think if we come into it with goodwill, people will look back, and I believe that they really will say that this was the day that our history changed.
Chief Calvin Cragen is in an interview with BC Premier Christy Clark as the first guest on his show, Voices of Shishalh. And I think, Chief, she's not just acting on her own behalf. Every politician ever elected from this point forward will have to somehow or another be observant and adhere to the rules that she makes up now. So she's got a bit of a rough road, and you asked her about her paving the way.
Yep, and she was very clear that each band in BC is different. Therefore, each band has to be approached differently. And the impact on the municipalities and the local governments have to be affected. They have to be involved in order for that process to go forward. And I think that's the dilemma that the Premier and her government is having. But she could use Shishalh, because Shishalh is not only posturing, Shishalh is in a position to help her through that dilemma.
Well, I think first of all, I think we all need to be really honest about who it is we represent and represent those views accurately. And every community is unique. So I think every leader, I hope, would feel comfortable bringing forward their unique concerns and the unique vision for their own community. And I believe we can work constructively. We won't get there unless we're partners, unless we are really working in tandem. As I said in my comments, the Supreme Court has told us we must recognize title, and we will recognize title in British Columbia. It set out a fork in the road for us to go down, a different path. But this is the beginning of that path. That path will not be built by government alone, and it won't be built by First Nations alone. It will only be built if we do it together. And that requires goodwill, open minds, and I have seen that all morning this morning so far today.
The Nature Conservancy of Canada, protecting Canada's natural habitats. The little piping plover is endangered from prairie lakes to east coast shorelines. It nests on open beaches, where the shape and color of its eggs protect them from hungry seagulls, but not from the feet of walkers or the wheels of ATVs. Join us in protecting the delicate habitat of the piping plover for generations to come. For more information, call or visit us online.
As an actor, I've played many roles, but I didn't choose my latest one, living with multiple myeloma, a rare and incurable cancer of the bone marrow. For most patients, myeloma was quickly fatal. Now, thanks to new treatments and better education, people like me can live longer, productive lives. We all deserve an equal chance to fight myeloma. That means the right care at the right time. Join the fight. Make myeloma matter. Visit myelomacanada.ca.
Hi, I'm Ben Mulrooney, and all of us here are proud supporters of the Trans-Canada Trail. We've already built 10,000 kilometers, but there are 8,000 still to go before this vision becomes reality.
But we need your help to complete this great national dream. Every $50 you donate
builds another meter of trail. In recognition, we'll put your name in a trail pavilion.
Call now. Help complete the Trans-Canada Trail.
Sunshine. Warming, energizing, life-giving. Like the effect of the sun on all living things, the Sunshine Foundation of Canada brings warmth and hope to children with severe physical disabilities and life-threatening illnesses. For 20 years, Sunshine has been making dreams come true, creating smiles and happy memories to last a lifetime. Sunshine Foundation, dreams for kids. Help brighten a child's life. Visit sunshine.ca today.
The show is Voices of Shishalh, and the host is Chief Calvin Craig, and I'm your announcer, Michael Morgan. We're in conversation with the Premier of British Columbia, Christy Clark. And I think it's fair to say that she has a difficult role to play between the federal government and yourself, and you actually asked her how she sees that role playing out.
Yeah, she understands that she's in a difficult position between the federal government and a self-governing band. But what she doesn't understand is that because we are a self-governing band, we don't really need to have the federal government give us their blessing. The province can deal with us directly. They could deal with us tomorrow. We can resolve this as soon as she's ready and able to sit at the table with Shishalh.
Well, we need the federal government to be engaged and at the table. They're a partner in this, absolutely a partner in education, in social welfare and child welfare in communities. We cannot expect First Nations to have the equal educational outcomes if their kids don't get the same start that other kids do. The federal government needs to be a partner in that. The federal government needs to be a part in treaty making and other economic agreements. So we need them, First Nations and the province, need them there at the table. And when we have our meeting next year, we are going to invite all of the federal members of Parliament for British Columbia to also attend, because it's not just a party with two of us. There are three partners that need to be at the table together for this to work.
I really enjoyed seeing Christy dealing with you in a very honest way. I thought you really brought her out of herself. And in subsequent weeks, Gary Feschuk will join us. He's a counselor and former chief. And the cultural director, Candace Campo, will take us through some of the beautiful aspects of Shishalh culture that you normally wouldn't see. Totem poles and Labrador tea picking, all kinds of wonderful segments. This is going to be an exciting season. I thank you for having me as your announcer. And we're going to end, as with all things, in a celebration of song. And Chief, you have the last word.
Well, I think it's the proper way to do it. We've introduced who I am. I've introduced to you who the Shishalh people are. You will meet and greet some of our dancers, our singers. You will see former leaders. We'll share a lot of history with you. We'll share a lot of what we have planned. We want to share this with the community and be very open to the community. And I'm very happy to do the show to do that.
Thanks for watching.
Itaquile Ukmisiaya, Tatlimo Shishalh. Good day, everyone. We are the Shishalh people, here to share our Shishalh welcome song. The song was given back to us in 1996 by the Heltsik Bella Bella people. Olnom Chalap. Thank you.
Way My name is Halos, and this is my squeak.